From the moment we wake up, we're inundated with things we could buy. It's estimated that we see about 50 to 400 ads every single day. So that means a lot more of us are just accumulating a bunch of items we don't truly need, and we end up with a cluttered home that is stressing us out, and this whole negative cycle repeats over and over again. This whole thing of overconsumption has become a lot more the norm. Enter Underconsumption Core. So the other week I stumbled upon this trend called Underconsumption Core. It is a TikTok trend that's gone absolutely viral, and it kind of sounds similar to minimalism. If you haven't heard of it before, it's basically a non-consumerism trend. You know how we see overconsumption everywhere, especially on social media, and I think especially on TikTok. You're constantly exposed to lots of products that are supposed to make your life better. So I looked for a definition for this trend, and Underconsumption Core is basically only buying what you actually need, using that product up, or wearing it and re-wearing it until it needs to be mended or eventually replaced. Similar to minimalism, it's kind of promoting using what you have, making use of the products that you already have in your home before you actually go out and buy more. And I think that's why it kind of appealed to me, because I've been on this minimalism journey for over a year now, just trying to be more mindful with the things I bring into my home, taking things out of my home that I'm not getting use of, and just in general trying to slow down my purchases as well. A lot of people I saw were saying that actually this is nothing out of the ordinary, this is just what normal people do. But the fact that this has become a trend, I think says a lot. I think a lot more of us than we probably care to admit, myself included, do this or used to do this in the past, where we would buy lots of products when in fact our bathrooms were already stuffed with a bunch of skincare we didn't use, or a bunch of beauty products we have never hit pan on. Because we see a lot of ads every single day, we are influenced to buy a lot of products that we probably don't need. There's also a lot of impulse buying going on, and for me, I know it took quite a bit of a journey to change those habits to where I am today. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I am just trying my best to be more conscious. And the funny thing is, we know all of this shopping is bad for the environment, right? Bringing all of this stuff in that we don't actually need. We know it will likely affect future generations, our children, our grandchildren. But this is something I learned in the Atomic Habits book, because either the reward or the consequence of our current actions is so far into the future, it doesn't feel tangible, it doesn't feel like it's actually going to happen. And so that's why we give in to a lot of impulse buying, because if we don't actually see the consequence of what we're buying today, that little decor item we're buying today and adding to our homes, so it doesn't feel tangible. Whereas that quick dopamine rush when we buy a product, that is real. That's a feeling we feel instantly. Even though, yes, it does go away very quick. I think it's estimated that within an hour or two, that dopamine rush goes down. And that's why a lot of us get addicted to shopping, because it is a bit of a high. It makes you feel good in the moment. So I want to share with you 10 things I learned from this underconsumption trend. Number one is that this trend is actually the opposite of those stock up, my fridge, or stock up my pantry, or stock up my cleaning products kind of videos. We see these videos of people, buying all of these items and laying them out beautifully in these big storage areas with beautiful containers, and we feel like that's the goal. But in fact, we don't really need that much, and it's unlikely that we will actually use all of those products before either they go bad or we just get bored of them and throw them away, because that's a thing as well. And so this trend feels like it's all about going back to the basics and realizing that we don't need a full warehouse of things in our homes. And going along with this, the second thing I learned from Underconsumption Core is that we need to ask ourselves, how many of this particular product do I actually need? Do we really need duplicates of, moisturizers or body lotions? So it's all about being more realistic with the amount of products that we actually need and can actually get use out of. Another thing I learned, which I was very much guilty of, is to focus more on function rather than aesthetics. And I definitely used to do this. I used to feel like the goal to have an organized or, streamlined home was to have these beautiful containers, all of the containers in the kitchen to match. And that's not really the goal. Right now, if you look in all of my spaces, I actually have mismatched containers here and there, different baskets that I kind of accumulated throughout the years. And then once I decluttered my home, I realized actually I didn't need all of those baskets. I didn't need more containers. I just needed less stuff in my home in general. And I do still like having pretty things. I do find joy in organizing my items, but I don't feel the need for everything to be matching, everything to be, perfectly curated in all of my storage areas. So that's one thing I do think I'm going to try to take away even a bit more from this trend. The fourth thing I learned is to use things up before you go and buy more. And this is similar to the, one in, one out rule that I always use. And I use this for a lot of things like beauty products or clothes, for a lot of things in my wardrobe. I just find it really helpful. If I'm going out to buy a t-shirt for some reason, then I will look and see if there's any old ones. So I will not go out and buy more mascara if I already have a tube of mascara I'm currently using. So I'm really trying, especially with beauty and makeup products and skincare, things like that, use up this moisturizer before I go out and buy another one. Another thing I noticed with this trend is that it's a lot more romanticizing this type of, underconsumption. And I think that's a good thing. I don't see it as a bad thing, because for a long time we have been romanticizing, overconsumption, buying a lot of things, doing all these beauty hauls and massive shopping hauls. And I think it's a good thing to make this kind of more minimalist approach to shopping, make it more appealing to people. And a lot of us, especially here in my community, on my YouTube channel, and my Instagram, I do get a lot of messages from people who are kind of joining a similar journey, who are trying to size down, trying to use up what they have before they buy more. I think this trend is going to be really helpful for both our budgets and for the environment as well. The underconsumption core trend is kind of the opposite of these, influencers' big shopping hauls. And I am massively calling myself out here, because I used to do these. I used to do shopping hauls. I used to go out and buy lots of home decor items and beauty products and clothes, and I would share them here on my channel. So yes, that was me a few years ago. And since going on this minimalism journey, I don't think I've done a shopping haul like that, because I haven't actually bought a lot of things like that. I don't really go out on a massive shopping spree anymore. In fact, I have said no to hundreds or maybe even thousands of brand deals that I get in my emails pretty much every single day, because for one, I don't want to add items to my home that I don't truly need. And for two, I don't want to just promote a lot of products on here that you may or may not need. So I do still share the things that I love, the things that I do find value in. I do feel like they're adding something to my life, but those products have reduced a lot. Another thing I took away from this trend is stopping the need to be constantly buying new things. I'm actually thinking of doing a no buy month during the month of August. So maybe I'll do an updated video at the end of August just to tell you how I got on. Yeah, let me know if you would like to see that. Another thing I took from this trend is how to really stop impulse buys. This was actually something I was kind of doing before as well. The 10 days rule or 14 days rule, where you simply give yourself a bit of a cooling off period before you make a purchase. So I have a wish list on my phone. It's either sometimes I will take a picture if I'm out in the shop of the products that I'm, kind of wishing for, or I will just note it down in a notes app on my phone, because oftentimes it's just the impulse of buying. Sometimes we're in an emotional state in the shop and we know we'll get a quick dopamine rush if we buy that product. But down the line, it can actually end up causing us a lot of negative effects. It will just clutter up our homes if it's not something we actually needed. So, giving yourself 10 days, 14 days, however long you feel comfortable with, it can really help you kind of take a step back and reassess, do I actually want this product? Is this something I actually need? Is this something that's actually going to add value to my life? Or is it just an impulse buy that I'm going to regret tomorrow? And the next thing I did is I stopped shopping just because I was bored. I was absolutely the kind of person who used to go out to shops, browse around, and pick up random things just because they were on sale. I thought they were cute, but I didn't really need them. But since going on this minimalism journey, I have definitely become a lot more of an intentional shopper. I don't really go out and buy things like that anymore, but I have learned to admire things that I think are beautiful or cute, but not feeling necessarily the need to own them, if that makes sense. So repeat after me, just because it's cute doesn't mean I need to own it. And another thing I've learned is that buying pre-loved things can actually be really fun. I have been using Vinted a lot more in the past few years, whereas before I would usually just go out to the shop and buy everything new basically. And now whenever I can, I will go onto Vinted and see, can I find this item pre-loved? And actually you can find a lot of items in great condition or almost like new. And especially for things like baby items, because they only wear them for a few months, I think it's worth giving Vinted or any other similar app a try. Yes, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, we see tons of ads. I do think it's up to us to try to change those habits and be a bit more intentional with our purchases, myself included.